Welcome back to Morrowind. Today we are going to join Por in his adventure to conquer the land of Vardenfell without using any money. Por is a Breton. I chose Breton because they have really good bonuses to magic, as well as that 50% resistance to magic. That should help a lot. I pick mainly magic skills as my major skills because you can get spells right off the rip if your stats and skills are in the correct spot. That's why I increase luck as well. But then I go for the lady for the increased personality and endurance to get more health per level. And this is what it all looks like in the end. So let's talk about what no money means. What can I not do? Well, I can't have money in my inventory. If I'm given money, I have to drop it immediately. But there's a lot of things that I'm denied with no money. No travel services, no shopping services, no training services, which I crutch heavily on training for these videos to make them go by faster. I can't buy any new spells, so I need to stick with the ones that I'm given on character creation. I can't even donate money to the temple in order to receive blessings to restore my stats or cure diseases. So normal early game tactics of going around Sadianine and collecting early money really aren't going to help me very much. I can go get my Scrolls of Icarian Flight from Teriel. That's not a problem, that's not money. And there's a lot of artifacts that I can collect that don't require any money in order to purchase. Luckily, with Conjuration as a major skill, and with enough intelligence, I can start out with the spell Bound Dagger, which is going to be the weapon that I will use for the majority of this run until I manage to retrieve Wraithguard. I managed to get through eventually, and with nothing else tying me to Sadianine, I make my way over to Balmora. Now, Balmora with no money might seem like something strange, but I'm going to collect ingredients on my way, since alchemy is one of my major skills, and I'll make my way to the Mages Guild in order to do some of the early quests there. I'll need those ingredients that I found along the way, the flowers and the mushrooms for Ajira, and go find the reports. With really everything done in Balmora that I need to have finished, I can make my way first to Caldera. I can sort of set up a home base in Gorak Manor. I need somewhere to place all of my ingredients mainly. I've amassed a lot of ingredients already through barrels and crates and things, but I can also retrieve the Master Alchemy set from the Mages Guild. Since I can't buy any services, I also can't repair items at a vendor, so I need to source my own repair materials. And on my way to Aldrun, I can also retrieve the main thing that's going to help me travel in the Boots of Blinding Speed from Pemini. Since I'm not able to use travel systems like the Siltstrider or boats, this is going to be one of the things that makes this run remotely feasible in a reasonable amount of time. I've also elected to go on the back path for the main quest rather than the main quest line, because there are times in the main quest where you are required to use money in order to advance it. For example, when becoming the Hlalu Hortator, Crassus Curio requests that you pay him 1,000 drakes, which I'm not allowed to have any of them, so can't do that. After defeating Pemini and retrieving the Boots of Blinding Speed, I make my way over to Aldrun in order to complete Edwina Elbert's earlier duties. Edwina Elbert gives me some money in order to retrieve a book, the Chronicles of Unshelft, for her. Since I can't just go to Vivec and buy the book, I need to figure out a different way to source that book. I thought that there was a copy of the book in Nissus, in Baldus's Velothi Tower, so I make my way towards Nissus. I make a stop in Margan in order to complete the Hulin's Hut quest early, just so that I didn't have to leave Aldrun to do it again. And I have a little bit of trouble defeating the Scamp, but manage to make it work. While I'm over near Nissus, I also decide I should try to get the Amulet of Shadows. Since I can't spend money on goods, if there's a certain piece of gear that I know a merchant has and they have it on display, I can utilize the 5-finger discount in order to purchase that piece of equipment for a healthy 0 septims, and this Amulet of Shadows with its 80% chameleon effect should help me do that. The fight itself is extremely difficult. One of the problems is I keep forgetting to take off my boots early on. The blind effect on the boots actually constitutes as just a flat mischance. Where I resist 50% of the blinding effect, I still have a flat 50% mischance. But I eventually find a line where I can use a scroll of hellfire that I found in order to eliminate the Breton woman. And then I just need to figure out how to deal with the dark elf woman that assaults me as well. She has the 80% chameleon from the Amulet of Shadows. Luckily, the first opponent I defeated drops an enchanted ring, and that can take out a fairly decent chunk of the second assailant's health. Now, I can't get too far away from the second assailant because she will draw a bow, and the bow is a lot more difficult to deal with than her sword, which is surprising because I'm sure you've seen the sword does kill me a lot, but the bow kills me even faster. So the best thing to do is stay in melee range, and I can just suck potions until the fight concludes. I managed to finish her off with a Firebite spell, which is surprising since that's a Dark Elf and they're resistant to fire. Upon arrival in Nissus and after climbing Baldus's tower, I realized that there isn't a Chronicles of Unshelved book here. So with that line failed, I make my way over to Kuhl, since it's very nearby. I remember Captain Carnius having copies of Chronicles of Unshelved in his quarters in Fort Frostmoth on Solstheim, but then I remembered an important message that came up saying that Solstheim failed to load. While I'm still in Kuhl, I just go the other direction. I figure I can head over to Aldredania and claim the Bitter Cup. I'm not sure if I want to drink from the Bitter Cup right away. I want this to lower my speed and raise my endurance. I might need to do some manipulation with that, but I can run into Aldredania and retrieve the Bitter Cup for later use. The chameleon from the Amulet of Shadows really helps in this case because a lot of the skeletons just fail to detect me, and I can make my way out before I get hit with the vampiric ring, which would be a pretty handy thing for me to have, but it's not something that's required. After that, I can just go ahead and manipulate my stats a bit. Make sure I take off the boots before I drink from the cup, because if I drink from the cup while I have the boots, it's going to increase my speed for sure. But here it is, I got what I wanted. Increased endurance and decreased speed. My base speed is 10, it doesn't really matter. My base speed is pretty much going to be 200 because of the Boots of Blinding Speed. I also stopped by the trader in Caldera, Vivec, because he has one of the only amulets of recall that you can actually get from a vendor. Again, I can't buy it from him, but this is what I'm talking about. If they have an item displayed that I need, I can go ahead and activate my chameleon and just take the item. While I'm still gathering things that I want for later, I can go ahead and grab the Fists of Rendagulf from Ilanubi. There are no enemies in there other than the Dreamers because I'm such a low level, so it's sort of an ideal time to go grab them. And I finally make my way to Vivec, still looking for that book, The Chronicles of Unshelved, but if there's a book to be found anywhere, it's probably at a library. So the Library of Vivec is my next stop, and sure enough, there are a few copies of the Chronicles of Unshelved there. I can also stop by the Mages Guild and steal Chimer Vidium for a later quest. I can go ahead and turn in most of the quests that Edwina has for me. She does need a Detect Creatures potion from Sinkentree's Shade over in Sadrith Mora, but I go ahead and drop a mark in front of her so that I can use my Amulet of Recall to get back to Edwina quickly. I happened to find a potion of mark at one point or another during my journey, so that was perfect to draw one mark in Alderaan. Since it's a fairly central location in my run, I figured that was probably the best place. Maybe Caldera would have been better, better in the long run, but Aldrun is close enough to Caldera. It's pretty much a straight shot south. The next time I actually need to leave Aldrun for one of Edwina's quests is to return Chimervidium to Surlonwe in the Vivec Mages Guild, which I do. With all of those tasks completed, I receive the Amulet of Divine and the Amulet of Civi Intervention from Edwina, and I figure while I'm in Aldrun, why don't I just go through Ghostgate? There's only 4 things that I need to gather in the Ghostgate. The 2 Kagernax tools that are present here, Keating and Sunder, and then there's 2 books that I will need in order to give to Yagrum Bagarn so that he can reactivate Wraithguard once I retrieve it from Vivec. The first stop is very important. I want to make sure I make it to the Citadel where Sunder is located. I have to be very careful because I'm still level 1 at this point, and most of the enemies here are very strong and can deal with me quickly. I therefore have to abuse the fact that my Amulet of Shadows gives me an 80% chameleon to sneak around a lot of these enemies, and make sure my green bar is full when I'm actually in combat. The reason I want to defeat this Ash Vampire first is, 1, it's one of the only required combat encounters in Ghostgate, so I figure if I can't do it, then I'll have to come back later anyway. 2, he also has the Amulet of Hearthheal. This gives levitation, which can also help supplement my movement in conjunction with higher speed to essentially make myself an aircraft. The fight is a lot easier than I thought it would be. I expected this to be very difficult, but I did have some really good buffs on me, because when else am I really going to need them? For some reason, this Ash Vampire can't actually move. I needed one of Kagernak's journals. I was able to just pick the lock and get the journal. Then make my way to grab Keening, and grab the book underneath the bookshelf for the final thing I needed. Really not that complicated to run into Ghostgate and then leave. But now this is where the longest part of the run comes in. In order to satisfy the conditions for the back door main quest, your character has to have just over 200 health. By my count, I'm going to need to be around level 20 in order to get there. So having done all of the gathering that I need to do, or at least most of the gathering that I need to do, I'm able to finally take my first level. I can go ahead and spam skills in order to continue leveling other skills up. For example, I took Speechcraft. I thought maybe I might need to bribe people, but I don't have money, so I can't bribe them, so I need to spam Admire instead for people to like me more. So Speechcraft is a major skill for me. While looking for some gear upgrades, I also found some light armor and some medium armor. The medium armor being adamantium armor at this vendor, which is really great. But the light armor I need to increase my agility, and the medium armor I need to increase my endurance. So I can just sit here in the basement of the Arena Canton in a storage room with a bunch of rats, and I can just let the rats beat me up. The only item that is degraded when I do this technique is my shield when I block. So that saves on repair hammers, but still lets me use some to try to get armorer increases. And I can also jump around in order to increase my acrobatics. While I'm in Vivec, I take a detour over to the Mudan Grotto to get the Dragonbone Cuirass, since that's a very good piece of armor. And then I find out while I'm trying to increase my security for intelligence that there is a lovely set of adamantium armor in Balmora. One of the other pieces of gear I really want is the Ring of Finaster. That will give me more magic resistance so that the blind effect from the Boots of Blinding Speed matters even less. But then for later levels, I decide it's a really good idea to get up my blunt level, since I will need to use Sunder, and that will also increase my strength, because I still need some strength increases. I spend a long time just in a single tomb near Caldera, vanquishing my foes. I can fix items that I loot as well, for a little bit of extra armorer experience. which in turn requires fewer levels of blunt. But the enemies in here level to you, so you'll see more Dremora Lords, more Storm Atronachs. I believe in the end I even had a Winged Twilight spawn, possibly a Golden Saint or two. It's not a bad way to level, but it's just very repetitive. I'd say the first part, the initial gathering part, took maybe 6 hours of time, whereas the training montage you're seeing took the majority of the run at about 10 hours of total gameplay time. But I did try training in other places. I made my way to Saran at one point. I can't recall what exactly I was looking for here, but I had amassed a grand following of cliff racers that would make St. Giab seethe, so I decided to try to let them train my medium armor up a little bit more. Another service that isn't available to me is enchanting. You can normally take a soul gem and an item over to some guy and they'll put an enchantment on it, but you can also do that on your own. Sometimes it requires a little bit of save scumming, but enchanting can also be leveled by using enchanted items. So making an item that has a very high charge limit, like this shirt that has 100 charges on it, that's very helpful for leveling your enchant level. I'm not just going to stop with that one shirt. I have pretty much the biggest stack of enchanted items I can hold that I can just spam casts from. But this is the final level I take. At level 20, I'm finally ready to make my way to Vivec. I stopped by Trebonius because I figure the staff that he has as well as the amulet should help me a little bit in this fight. Really, the main idea is to just aggro Vivec and let him chase me around a little bit with his spells before I can find one of these torches that are located conveniently in his chamber. I can just hide behind it and let him waste all of his magicka. Once Lord Vivec's magical powers are expended, it will take a very long time. I actually stepped away from the computer to go do something while this was happening because I knew it was going to take a while. But yeah, he has a lot of spells to throw at you, and if they hit, they hurt a lot. So try not to do that. But eventually he runs out of magicka, his final spell cast, and he just charges you with fists. I did happen to have a pretty decent Restore Fatigue potion, quaff that, take off my Boots of Blinding Speed, obviously, equip my staff, and I skipped the fight because the Trebonius' staff was making a lot of flashes, and I wanted to not subject people to that, just in case. The next stop is Telfur, in order to go down into the Corpusarium to talk to Yagrum Begarn, and he will be able to reactivate those enchantments on Wraithguard. Since I killed Vivec and I didn't let Vivec give me Wraithguard himself, I need to have the enchantments restored. Luckily, the old basement dwarf is willing to restore these enchantments, otherwise I'd be a little bit SOL. But I do think it's nice to have an alternate path to victory for this game, just in case something happens. This was before Bethesda had immortal essential NPCs, so if somebody died in Morrowind by accident, then there's a way to finish the game still. Unfortunately, the patch that I'm using makes the Jury-rigged Wraithguard a right-handed glove instead of the left-handed glove from the original, but we only need to wear it for a little while because it's straight to the goal from here.
Dagoth welcomes you, Nerevar, my old friend. But to this place where destiny is made, why have you come unprepared?
Unprepared is one word, but not the word that I would use. That scroll I just used was a Scroll of Warrior's Blessing. I've been saving it for a long time, but I figured it would be just the thing to take Dagoth out with.
What a fool.
And as is customary, once Dagoth teleports down to the heart with me, I use levitation in order to lure him off of the bridge and
No
let him
recall or
fall
intervention can
into the
work in
lava
this
below.
place. Come, lay down
Although this
your
time it
weapons.
takes a lot
It
longer
is
than it
not
usually
too late
does for
my
whatever
mercy.
reason, but that's okay. With that, I can go ahead and start working on the heart. 1 strike from Sunder, 5 from Keening.
What are you doing? What are you doing? Fool! Stop! This is the end. The bitter, bitter end.
And the heart is no more. Lorcan crumbles, and I am free from my burden of prophecy. And that's beating Morrowind with no money. Not a single drake. That's it for this video. This was a pretty fun concept. This is not the video that I've been working on for the past while. That one is actually still in the works. Sorry about that. I did hit 100 subscribers while I was on stream this past Tuesday. And that works out pretty well, because the next video should be that video I've been working on for a while. I'm still learning how to use my tools, so things take me a long time to make, and I am very thankful that people are willing to watch me as I fumble through and figure out how things work. So thanks for being here. I do appreciate it. And if you're new here and you saw this video and you're not subscribed yet, I do try to put these videos out every other week. I do Elder Scrolls videos generally, so leave a comment if you want to see a challenge. That's fun too. I took 1 challenge from my comments, 1 from my comments on stream so far, so yours could be next. Well, maybe not next, but, you know, the next one that I do that's a challenge video. Because I already have the next video planned out, but, you know, it's a thing that could happen. Leaving a like on the video also helps, and again, commenting helps too. Usually it's just my friend Tyler that comments on the videos. Thank you, Tyler, for commenting on the videos. I appreciate it. I have had other people comment on videos. It's not just Tyler sometimes, but seeing more comments would probably help with the video's performance. But other than that, it's enough that you're just here and watching. And again, thanks for doing that. But with all that out of the way, that's another challenge wrapped up. So thanks for watching. Goodbye.